Duffy and Musk, round one.
Spaceships on the move.
An interstellar visitor.
And we explore what science will look like in the next 10 years. All coming up on the next Orbital Edge. Hello and welcome to episode 2.6 of Orbital Edge News, a new show for new spaceflight fans. I'm your host Chad, and sitting right next to me is our co-host Jacob.
Hello.
And next to Jacob is our new spaceflight correspondent, Krystal.
Yes, hi.
Krystal, you know the drill. Let's get into some recent launches.
Yes, okay. So let's jump right in to this most recent launch, SpaceX's Falcon 9, carrying the Spain satellite NG2.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go SpainSat NG2.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
M&D chamber pressure is nominal.
So this mission lifted off of Cape Canaveral here in Florida on October 23rd, 9:30 p.m. EDT, using the sturdy Falcon 9 Block 5 rocket. So what was on board? The SpainSat NG2 satellite is a part of Spain's next generation military communications program. It's basically designed to give the Spanish armed forces and NATO partners secure high-speed communications anywhere on Earth using XKA and UHF bands. So that basically means that they can talk in remote areas or even in war zones. But here's something that I found super interesting. So for this mission, SpaceX actually didn't even recover the first stage. So it was flown in expendable mode, meaning that there's no booster landing this time because the payload needed maximum performance to reach its high orbit. So with the NG2, Spain can now join the elite group of nations capable of deploying fully secure military satellites, which is a really great success for Spain. So for our second launch, we have China's Long March 5. Okay, I might kill these names a little bit, but this rocket lifted off from the Wenchang Space Launch Site in Hainan, October 23rd at 10:30 a.m. ETD, which is a pretty major milestone for China's space program. So here's something I found that was pretty cool. It was actually a success, and it's finalizing China's third final step of its manned space program, which is building and expanding the space station. Big deal, right? But here's the flip side. So soon after the launch, reports came out that rocket debris may have fallen into waters near Cayajang and Jocos Norte in northern Philippines. And funny, or maybe sadly enough, this happened multiple times before, specifically with the Long March 5. So while this launch itself went perfectly, it did raise some serious public safety concerns about uncontrolled re-entry, which is basically just things falling into Earth that we have no idea where they're going to land.
China loves to drop rocket parts down on villages. That's kind of what they're known for sometimes, and in America it's a little bit different how they handle space policy, so that kind of shows you a good difference between American spaceflight and China spaceflight. And you can see in this photo right here, yeah, this is the reality of spaceflight in China. So, Krystal, I heard that Elon Musk and Sean Duffy are having a brawl.
Yes, they are at it again. So actually, since back in July, Elon and Sean Duffy's relationship has been pretty tense, but it really took off last week when Sean Duffy decided to open up SpaceX's Artemis contract. And he basically said that SpaceX has been falling behind on the race to put man back on the moon. He did float around the idea that we should move NASA under the Department of Transportation. A lot of people are not happy about this. Of course, Elon did not stay quiet. He did go on X, calling Duffy a slew of names. He called him Sean Dummy, saying he had a 2-digit IQ, and even asking his followers in a poll, should someone whose biggest claim to fame is climbing trees be running America's space program? So Duffy responded, I think pretty maturely, and it was simple but direct. He says on X, love the passion. The race to the moon is on. Great companies shouldn't be afraid of a challenge. When innovators compete, America wins. So it kind of begs this bigger question. This feels like more than just a Twitter fight. It feels like something bigger. It feels like a battle over what's going to happen with U.S. space exploration. On one side, you have Duffy pushing for more government control and oversight under this Trump administration. And then you have Musk, which is betting on private innovation and speed. So with China racing towards the moon as well, the feud is more than just personal. And with that, I'm going to bring it on to you, Jacob. So speaking of space exploration, can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on?
Yeah, guys, quickly becoming one of my favorite topics, aliens. Maybe. So, the 3I Atlas comet, you may have heard of it. If you haven't, it's okay. We'll get right into it. So, it was discovered on July 1st, and 3I Atlas pretty simply means 3, it's the third, I, interstellar, so third interstellar, and then Atlas refers to the telescope system that NASA has set up that discovered it, specifically the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, or ATLAS. So why do we care about this asteroid? Well, first of all, it's a comet, not an asteroid. It's glowing green, which is irregular on its own, and it seems to have some other objects floating around it while it's moving. The coma of a comet is this cloud of particles that are melting off of the comet, and instead of going forward, you would expect, the comet goes forward, the coma follows behind it, right? No, the coma on this comet is going forward, or at least it was. Recent update, it's switched directions. This comet has been coming toward our solar system for a while, but we didn't detect it until this year, which is a little scary that something could be flying so fast right at us and we'd never know. But we just found out a couple months ago, and we've been training all of our telescopes at it since, except now we can't, because it's flown behind the other side of the sun and will be there for the next couple of months. We're just waiting right now on it to come back around. Some other things that are a bit weird about 3I Atlas: it has a remarkably consistent flight trajectory. Remember Hale-Bopp from the 90s, the Heaven's Gate massacre? Well, that asteroid was 10 times more shakier in its flight trajectory. 3I Atlas is super, super straight. We don't know why. It's also coming from a kind of weird part of the solar system. Instead of coming from the side, or it's not coming down or anywhere else, it's coming almost particularly straight on with us. It's only 3 degrees off of the axis of the solar system. And it's coming from the direction where the 1977 WOW signal came from, if you're familiar with that. So a lot of weird coincidences going on. And all of these coincidences, of course, has brought around conspiracy theorists to say it's an alien spaceship. And I'm not here to tell you they're wrong. Who knows? It could be, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Some people are speculating that the gravity's not affecting its trajectory at all, which is giving them, the reasoning that it could be a spaceship.
Yeah.
Which is a little interesting thing about this object.
So we're going to find out a little bit more about it soon. Once it comes back around the other side of the sun, it will be pretty near Mars. Not super, super close, but way closer than it has any right to be. So the many satellites that we have flying around there are going to aim their cameras right at 3I Atlas, and hopefully we'll get some more answers about what this weird object really is and why it's acting so peculiarly compared to other comets. So speaking of, Chad, I've heard that there's been some developments with the Artemis 2 mission.
Yes, finally the Orion spacecraft, which was named Integrity, is finally arrived at the vehicle assembly building for stacking. It had arrived at the Kennedy Space Center. It was lifted atop of the SLS rocket in the High Bay 3 on October 19th. This is going to mark a major milestone in the entire Artemis program, finally getting humans back to the moon. And this is going to go on a 10-day mission to be the first crewed flight for the Artemis program. And it's going to set to launch no earlier than February of 2026, with a potential launch window extending to April of 2026. With that said, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, the topic of the show, science. What's that going to look like in 10 years? Stay tuned. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's get on with the topic of the show. What will science look like? Krystal, I believe you have a lot of information on that.
So scientists believe that there's some layers right under Mars's surface. And we know that we do have some missions coming up like ExoMars and the Morris Ice Mapper that are planning to drill into Mars's surface about 2 meters deep. And I guess the hope with that is that once they're able to drill into these ice levels, that we might find some organisms that can hint to previous life on Mars. And that would be really, really cool and interesting. So what about you guys?
All right, I've got 2 takes. First one is a bit more realistic. The second one is, I don't know.
It's really out there.
I don't know if I'm hoping for it, but it's something that will come eventually. Yeah. First thing, I think we're going to see a lot more tests of what can possibly be farmed in space and on other planets. If we do end up getting people on the moon and Mars, which it seems like at least we're getting people back on the moon in the next decade, we'll probably see some more tests about how we can grow certain crops on other worlds. We might even see more tests of what can be grown in lunar and Martian soil, specifically Martian soil. My more out there take, though, I think we're going to see a ramping up in attempts at space mining. Because asteroids, they're not too far away. And there's a lot of valuable minerals and ores on there. We're talking iron, titanium, lead, cobalt, gold, silver, the big stuff. So we know that that's coming at some point. It's just a question of when. Is it coming the next decade or later? I would wager we're going to start seeing some tests of the feasibility of space mining. I don't know that we'll actually end up on an asteroid that quickly, though.
The next 3i Atlas that could come in like 10 years, that could, it could contain all those elements and things like that. And if we're space ready to do that, that's going to be amazing.
All right, Chad, what's your take?
My take is short and simple. Let's start off with Mark Watney's take. He did a lot of crop growing in that movie on The Martian. Potatoes, lunar greenhouses. And you gotta grow crops in a special set of gravity, which is 1/3 of the Earth. So that's gonna be tricky. Maybe we'll have to genetically modify the seeds before they start planting them on the surface. Then we've got geological studies, the regolith compounds, looking at those up close and then having, a dedicated laboratory for that. Then we've got space weather. We'll study solar wind and particle observations, as there's a little bit of atmosphere on Mars, about 2% of what Earth is. And, with everything I just talked about, with atmospheric studies, sample returns will get a lot easier here. So everything we do on Mars, because we have all those dedicated labs, we don't have to launch a rocket there to Mars and then back, we can do the science on Mars already and then just send that stuff back either with the astronauts or a robotic mission that can actually launch from Mars to Earth. Of course, the continuing search for either traces of liquid water or water underground wells is, of course, kind of a given, when exploring Mars. And with everything I said, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, comments from the show. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're going to get into the first comment that we've had for this episode. And this is coming from Reddit from SVH01973. For decades, we've been studying the effects of long-term spaceflight on humans, plants, animals, with the intent of taking long voyages and building permanent bases. Hopefully, we'll start seeing some of those experiments being conducted further from Earth and see if our previous experiments have prepared us for what we have encountered. There should also be more commercial experiments being conducted as launch costs come down. Yeah, I did forget about, makes a good point there about the privatization part of it, where there'll be more commercial missions to Mars. But I think we need to get our foundation there first. It is going to take international measures to get to Mars. European Space Agency, Canada, Japan, and of course, other partners like SpaceX and Blue Origin. Once that foundation's been built, we've got the initial colonization. All that private, like mini missions can follow. That's actually going to be the only comment we have.
And that's going to close out our show today. If you liked what we're doing, please like the video, comment down below so your comment can be read in the next show, and subscribe to our channel. I've been Jacob.
Krystal.
Chad. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.